Hey, I'm Steven from Rugged Routes, and today we're going to introduce the North Rim Grand Canyon map, also known by the Bureau of Land Management as the Arizona Strip. As you can see on the map on the screen here in front of us now, there is satellite imagery embedded in this map, as well as county roads and BLM roads as well. And we'll get into more detail with exactly how these roads are labeled and how all that stuff works in just a moment. But before we do that, we're going to zoom out and kind of give you guys a brief overview of the whole scope of this map. So as you can see, this orange boundary, that's basically the boundary of this project. That boundary came directly from the BLM. That is their official boundary for the Arizona Strip, that like for their management area. Off to the east side in the very northeast corner, it does get off into some Forestry Service land, which is not covered in this map, but everything else is BLM, National Park, and Wilderness, and the Parashant National Monument boundaries, which is what the different colors are here. So the gray area towards the bottom is National Park. Then the beige right above that is the Grand Parashant National Monument boundary. And then we have the green areas, which are the wilderness areas. Now the roads that are showing here are not all of the roads. As we zoom in, more stuff shows up just to kind of keep the map clean and having it make sense. So as we zoom in, and I'll kind of show you that really quick, you can see that things kind of load in two different stages. The thicker brown lines, which show up first, are the numbered roads that the BLM has on record. And then as you zoom in more, you end up with more really thin roads that are kind of all over the place. Those are still legal routes from what I'm told by the BLM. They are saying that these small roads are roads that existed in the Arizona Strip prior to the BLM starting to manage the land. They've left those roads alone. They haven't closed them. So as long as there's no gate or any signage or anything keeping you from going on those roads, they are legal routes. But if we zoom in really close here, you'll see that the thicker brown line off to the left is 1008, and that's one of the more primary BLM roads. The gray line is the County Road 5. If you're familiar with the area, you've probably been up and down this road many times. And then the thinner brown line off to the right, you can see that there's no number there. And that's simply because it doesn't have a number. Now, obviously, currently we are not viewing the satellite imagery, so I'm going to turn that back on. But as I do, I wanted you guys to know that there is a subtle difference between enabling the imagery on this map versus some older ones. The older ones in the past was using the photo overlay option, which is currently set to off in the top right, and it's grayed out. I can't select it. Instead, we are now using the shaded relief, at least for this map. So if we enable the shaded relief in the bottom right-hand corner, we'll get that image that pops right back up. The reason for this change was so that the boundaries for Park Service, the National Monument, and wilderness areas can be properly layered on top of the map. If I didn't do it this way, it wouldn't have displayed properly, and it made things complicated. So a small change. I hope it doesn't throw anybody for too big of a loop, but that is that's basically one of the changes in this map compared to some previous stuff. Now I'm just going to kind of scroll across here, and in fact, let's zoom out really far and let's poke in over here. I'm going to show you guys a few things. So we've got tons of points of interest in here. A lot of these points of interest, the yellow ones that you see basically all over the place, these are the dispersed campsites that the BLM has on file, and they have various notes on these sites as well. So there's no amenities here, but you can kind of get an idea of how big the site is as far as like the clearing goes, and there's typically a fire ring or something there already. No running water, no picnic benches or anything like that, but just a known site that somebody else or probably multiple people over the years have used. So I encourage you to use those existing sites. These blue dots that you're going to see in here, oh, I selected the wrong one. So this blue one, a lot of these blue dots are going to be different hiking trailheads, which could be useful for some of you that might want to explore some things on foot, as well as these magnifying glasses, which are usually on this map, is signifying that there's some sort of overlook or some sort of scenic something right at that spot. Now you'll see this other symbol that most of you probably haven't seen on my maps before, this radio looking one. This one is a ham radio repeater. So if you happen to be a ham operator and you want to jump on a local repeater, this data was pulled from repeaterbook.com. I've got a good relationship with those guys over there, and I was able to acquire this data to roll this in. I thought it's important to start bringing in more communications type information. If there were any GMRS repeaters in the area, I would have brought those in as well. But as much as many people are loving GMRS these days, there's no repeaters back in this remote area. So frequency on this one, 446.5250 with a tone of 177.3. If you're not a ham radio operator, either this probably sounded like Greek to you, but not that big of a deal if you're not a ham or don't plan on becoming one. Now moving over a little bit more to the east, like northeast, there is another repeater in here, KD7GEP. This repeater is on 146.91. Again, this is also in the ham radio band. So if you are not a licensed ham radio operator, do not jump on the repeater unless it's a life or death emergency and you need help. But again, I thought it was important to have some sort of communication option in here. When we were on a trip out in this area earlier this year, unfortunately I did not test these repeaters, but Repeater Book seems to be doing a really good job maintaining this data and keeping it accurate. So I would expect both of these machines to work. If you know otherwise, please drop a comment below this video here on YouTube. Moving on, there's all sorts of just overlooks, information, the petroglyphs, all sorts of really cool stuff, all marked in here along the way. I mean, I don't want to take up a whole ton of time going through everything in here, but this is by far one of the largest and most detailed maps that I have done, and there's just a lot going on in here. So as one of the options for exploring this area, I would say that making plans to stay at the Bar 10 Ranch would be really, really wise, especially if you're traveling on a UTV. So the Bar 10 Ranch is basically you can make reservations there. They don't have a hotel room or anything that you can book, but what they can do is put you up in one of their covered wagons. And let me show you what those look like really quick. So these are their wagons. They've got quite a few of them, and they do have power. They were recently rebuilt. They're, I think, maybe a year and a half old now. As you know, it's September of 2023, so who knows when you'll be watching this video in the future, but these were basically brand new wagons. Scooting through here, inside the wagon, you pretty much just have a bed and some electricity and some lights. So if you have any battery operated devices that you need to charge, you can easily do that here. Drones, camera equipment, phones, even though there's no cell service like anywhere out there, which is why I stress the ham radio option, or not really stress it, but you know that the repeaters are there as an option if you need. So really, really cool place. They also cook for you there, so make reservations ahead of time. Tell them how long you're going to stay. They'll let you know when they're going to cook you dinner, when they're going to make you breakfast, and if you're going to do a multi-day stay, they can also send you off with a sack lunch. So they do a really good job taking care of their guests there, and it really is kind of a life-sustaining oasis when you're out on a UTV this far from anything. Right, from Mesquite to the ranch, it's about 100 miles. You will want to carry extra fuel just in case you make a wrong turn or decide to take some additional detours. So but if you're carrying extra fuel in your car, please do it safely. there's been too many stories over the years of bad things happening. So definitely you just be prepared, because you're going to be out really, really far from civilization, and there's really nothing out there between Mesquite and Bar 10. And then even from Bar 10 going north, you are about 60 miles from the closest paved road as the crow flies. So you're really far back there. It's extremely scenic, with a mix of high elevation trails that go into like some forest type areas, which really are following through some corridors of the wilderness areas, as well as, you know, remote desert areas that go right up to the edge of the Grand Canyon. So it's an absolutely amazing place up there, but it's something you definitely need to be pretty prepared for. As far as fuel goes, if you are staying at Bar 10, they do have a large fuel tank on site. So after breakfast, anybody that's got a UTV or has anything that needs fuel, you can go around the corner and they pump gas. They just keep track of it as you go if you're in a multi-day stay, and then you square up when you check out. So that makes it really, really convenient. As long as you can make it back to Bar 10 at the end of the day, you should be able to be all right, because they got food and they got gas. So yeah, this place is really making UTV rides back there possible within a reasonable amount of preparation, right? So going into other places outside of Bar 10, such as a really popular place called the Toro Weep Overlook. So going over to Toro Weep from Bar 10, you do have to go up and around, kind of there's a bunch of mountains and hills and stuff in the way. So you got to go to the northeast and wrap around, and you end up over here at the Two Weep Ranger Station. Over at that ranger station, you'll probably run into a guy named Todd. He's a really nice guy, full of information, but he is doing his job enforcing some various rules that are being enforced out there. One of those things is, if you are going to be crossing into the National Park Service managed land, you do have to have a street legal vehicle. So if you're in a UTV with OHV registration only, they will not let you go through. So you have to have a license plate. Also, if you're going to go through there, check out the Toro Weep Overlook on the BLM website, so you can register and let them know you're going to be coming. This way they can make sure that you're fitting into a schedule. And it sounds more complicated than it really is, because they're trying to get as many people down there as possible. What they're trying to prevent is too many people going down there at once, because there's only parking for about 15 vehicles, give or take. So this has become a really popular place over the last few years, and they've said that they've come out where there's nearly 100 cars lined up on the road trying to get in, and it just became to be too much. So when we were there was only a few cars there. It wasn't that big of a deal, but to ensure that you're going to be able to actually get down there, just jump on the BLM website and just make the reservations. Let them know you're going to be on the way, and they'll do everything they can to get you in. With that, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to review in this video. There's more to talk about, like the schoolhouse and the sawmill and some other more historical things, but I can ramble on and on about it. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. And if you guys have any questions or anything, please feel free to drop a comment or question below this video, and I will definitely get back to you. I appreciate you all watching the video, and if you do want to pick up one of these maps, they are available now at ruggedroutes.com. I'll shoot it out to you on an SD card, and you should be all set. Thanks again. Have a good one.